Yo, welcome guys to a bit of an unusual video, because today we're gonna look at how I practice for league races and how you could improve your own practice for league racing and the important leagues you race in. So we have some different topics today we're gonna look at, and I hope this helps you. If you have any questions regarding the following, just ask them in the comments, or if I forgot something big, so I can answer them right there. So I made a little list here of the most important things. First, obviously, is going to be getting up to speed, how to do that. Then how to prepare setups in a way that they fit you for the race line quali. How to do race practice in Grand Prix mode. You obviously have to do online practice as well because that feels different in a way. Wet practice is always important, and a little conclusion on how we're going to end up with this. So by getting up to speed, you have to find the limits of the track, of course, and what the car can do. You have to try some setups, obviously, from the TT leaderboards. You can try those. They mostly are not suited to race um, pace and race driving in general. So try them compared to the ghosts. If you have someone that's quicker or someone you're racing directly in the league, turn on their ghosts and the leader's ghosts to see where you lose the time and how you can improve by taking different lines. Then what I usually do is also watch other hot laps on YouTube. Doesn't matter how quick you are, you can always learn from other people and see what they do, what gears they use, how they take the lines and corners, etc. etc. And I usually put in 200 plus laps for League of Europe and probably way less for other leagues at the moment. I would say put at least 50 plus laps in TT until you get close to the maximum of what you and the track can take. So do that to find the raw speed, which you're gonna need in quali and also in a race or any of a setup that suits you. So what I do to prepare the setups is usually say 5 different setups from TT that I tried out that are quick on one lap pace. Don't have to be equally quick, and make sure they're different, like different in wing combinations, roll bar combination, suspension and ride height. Also play around a bit with the tire pressures, but you just focus on getting some decent setups, which are a good base on what you can build on when you do the race practice we're gonna go on to. Save them. I usually save them at the top, so I have my setup saved below that, so I can save like 8 setups ahead. So I can choose them quickly. Don't waste any time. Name them so you can recognize them. I usually do it with wings, or if they have a special characteristic, just add that as well. So when you write them down and do the race practice, you know which setup does what and which is which setup. So when I start doing race practice, I usually do one shot quali and the first stint with all the setups. So what I do is I go through all the setups once in one shot quali, then the other way around, like the setup I used last, I use first this time, and do that and write down all the lap times. So it's equal with driver improvement and setups in general, so it equals that out a little bit. Probably not as equal as you would want to, but it still helps to get a general feeling of how quick the setup is over one lap, but obviously that's going to be adjusted later on. Then for the race practice, okay, I do the first stint with all the setups, write down everything, as much as information as you want to. I write them down with pen and paper, so I write down the average lap times. So I calculate lap 2 onwards to the end of the stint, what the average lap time is. Then the tire wear on all tires, so I usually take a screenshot and how much ERS there's left. Try to use the ERS like exactly the same every single time with all the setups all out of the same corner. Also, top speed is usually quite good to know, and the handling characteristics, like if a setup is really oversteering the race, just maybe note twitchy or something, or understeery or overheating tires, just something like that. And then you can use those setups and what you've learned from the numbers, raw numbers on paper, to find out what makes a setup quick and raceable, and then try to combine it and change existing setups by combining them and find the perfect balance for a race car. Like always call that like cracking the password. So find the right combination between all the settings, suspension settings, wing settings, pretty much like that. And then once you're happy with one or two setups, or like you have a really good baseline, try full race distances. Find out what the best strategy is. Write down the race times of the different strategy. Let's say you do soft hard or soft medium. Write down the time you finish on. Calculate in the time penalties you get. So you then can compare which strategy is faster. If it's really close, the first one is maybe a bit slower. Do the first one again later on to see if it was just drive improvement or just that. Write down how much fuel you need. Also, the pit window, if you can see that with AI, calculated what that is, so you know that for safety cars, and the pit window in general, like when to pit or what laps you can do to get to the end, which is good for an undercut, overcut, etc. Write it down and save that information for later because you're gonna need that again in other leagues, probably, or season 2. Then probably the most important thing is online practice because that's how it's gonna feel in the real thing. Do sessions with friends, competitors. Obviously not sharing too much, but sandbagging is usually just a waste of time. So make sure you have some good buddies you can practice with, sweat with, and learn from each other. First, for just do a couple of quali sessions to find the speed in qualifying, to know what you can do, to find a consistency on how to set it up, how many runs you can do, and then mostly the first stint. Try battling cars, try clear air to see how it feels, what you have to do to change the setup or just the strategy or how you drive in general. Then if you have the time, drive as many race distance as you can, just to see how it feels online as well and compare to other guys with other strategies. Then on to something not many people do is web practice. Obviously not on tracks like Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, probably a waste of time, but do TT wet laps to find out what's quick in the wet first. Get a couple of laps, not too many, don't waste your time on that. And try also the dry setup, so in case the race gets so wet unexpectedly or just at the end of the race. Try what it feels like with the dry setup, just so you know you're prepared and don't get caught out by a big twitch of oversteer or complete undrivability. So do that, and then also in Grand Prix mode do one-shot qualies with the different setups in wet and intermediate conditions. So then you can decide what setup to go for in what condition, probably write it down, and then save a dry setup, obviously, a half wet setup, and the wet setup, if the dry setup works in the wet, that's obviously like perfect situation, but it's always good to have a full wet setup. Although you have to see that you don't use too high wings, so you can still overtake in the wet. So as a conclusion, I would say like information is key. Every bit of information you can get ahead of a league race is gonna help you so much uh, that you can just adapt to different situations and react on a base of knowledge instead of just guessing and risking stuff. So prepare for that. Just keep pushing. I know it can be boring to practice a lot. What I usually do is like listen to podcasts or interviews or something like that while driving if I'm on my own, and just keep going. If you win the race afterwards or championships, it's gonna feel so deserved and satisfied, and you're gonna appreciate how much effort you put in. And when you know what you can do when you put in the effort, it's also gonna be easy for you to motivate yourself with practice and in general just get into the grind and continue to push it. Ask for help, never shy back. Ask your team members, um, other competitors you're practicing with, just in general, just ask people for help if you need any advice, what gears to take, what lines, what to do with setups, what this and that does. Um, People are always willing to help. Obviously, they don't want to share too much, but when you're good friends with someone or not directly racing him, it's always great to have like some form of communication to improve each other. It's also like that when you tell someone how to do something, you're also learning yourself what not to do, or just expressing what you doing is helping you realize that on track as well. And then just as I said, write down everything you can. So for future league race, you don't have to put in the whole effort again, the complete one. Just write down strategies, setups, etc. Pit window if possible. So in case you have a league race there anytime soon, you can just look at that, do a couple of TT laps, online laps, and you're good to go. So that was my first video, like kind of that video. Let me know what you would say about that, and if you would like to have some other tutorials in that matter. I'm always open to suggestions. Just write it in the comments. Also, thank you for 1,000 subs. I don't know how I deserve that. I probably don't, because I use ABS. Me. Short stinks, and yeah, probably gonna see you for some league racing videos for the League of Europe first round in Bahrain after this weekend.